Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Coaching the Self podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin J Friedman, and today we're going to be talking about a very personal matter, which I think is very important, especially when we're discussing um, how to achieve your goals. It's very important to put yourself on the top priority, which means your overall health, not just in relation to work. And this is something where I myself have been struggling, because it's really finding a balance between work and life. And it's something that took me a while, especially when I was working in high tech. I brought this up also in my book, which I'll put in the link below. When working for someone else and doing a job which you might not be 100% passionate about, it can take a lot of energy. And that energy can make it harder for you to focus on the things that you're most passionate about. However, as most of us know, it takes a lot to help us get to the point where it can be more profitable when we are able to create a self-sustaining business. It takes years to get there. Some earlier, some later. However, the point is the same. It's very difficult and requires many hours and effort in order to get there, despite what many YouTubers may say. Now, I want to talk about this dream, which I think really signifies a new turning point and also amplifies a very important lesson. So the dream was, I was in this hotel, what felt like in Morocco or something like that. Very nice, very nice. However, there were a couple of men chasing me and trying to hunt me down and take care of me. I had run out, climbed through the window over a big ledge and jumped down. And then I went to a coffee shop where there I met Elon Musk, and we had a very delightful conversation, as well as a hope of inspiration, because he showed his belief in his understanding of my businesses. And of course, I ranted about the businesses when I'm sleeping. Now, the second really interesting person which I met, which also is a big inspiration, is Mr. Beast, the YouTuber, as I'm sure the majority of you will know. Also, harder for him to get his infatuation in me and my ideas. However, I was still able to get his blessing. And there's also a product which I think could be very good, and we're hopefully going to bring that out. And now that I spoke about this dream, I think it's very important to signify what it is that it means. And what I take from it is that sometimes we can be alone and it could be in the nicest place and we can get to where we need. However, at that same time, you're alone. And when you get to so many difficulties in very many different aspects of life, we need others. No matter what we may think, we are social creatures and we require others to help us get to our ideal state. So when I was in the coffee shop, I felt that together. I felt that safeness. And also something which some of you may not know, most cultures, especially in first world countries, know very well to what I'm referring, which is the coffee shop work from Nama, which I believe is an extension to the hive hypothesis created by one of the fathers of positive psychology, which states that when we do certain things that, such as being in nature and dancing together, repetitions, when you're in this group of environment and you're doing the same tasks, it can be very uplifting. Now, I found this to be personally true for me and many people. That's why you'll see people at Starbucks sitting. You'll see it frequently, and you should know that there's science behind this matter. If you want his book, he has a couple. I would recommend Happiness Hypothesis. It's a great book. Now, I believe that in order for us to grow, we must create a well-balanced machine, like I stated before. Now, what does that mean? It means knowing what are your limits and how to properly reward. Because, as many as you know, going through the entrepreneurial degree or even the artistic one, there's a lot of delayed gratification. Now, this is something that requires a lot of work for us to develop in willpower and discipline. Now, as much as I can tell you that it's very easy and I found the key, I have not. And I don't think anyone has found the key. I think everyone's just learning as they go and doing what's right for them. Now, there's a study that Andrew Hipperman has stated where the best, most efficient way is to take a day and a half or 2 days off. So, of course, I take over the weekend because of my religious observations, and for a while, even unnaturally, I would do Wednesdays. Now, this is something which I don't have the answer to, and maybe y'all can help me out. As I develop and debate this with multiple people, each one has a different option. Now, what I'm referring to is on my Wednesdays, what I would be doing and what was my routine for the past year and a half, possibly even 2 years, would be studying in the morning on Wednesdays, then doing some sort of either therapy or some sort of self-development, and then later in the day, also if I got some nature in there, that would be great. Maybe going to a park, terrific. And at night, I would be teaching. I teach refugees, and thank God I was teaching computers, and that was also pretty difficult because it wasn't fully challenging me. Now, another part, which I try not to drift too much off course, but it's very important to challenge ourselves. That's why the question of, what is the breaks and the rest that we can provide ourselves. So, to not drift too away, I'm going to bring it back and say that ever since I've been teaching entrepreneurship to these refugees, I've been a lot more fulfilled. Now, I think this points out a really good fact is when we do something that we do not like to do, it can drain out energy. But that same act, but it's something that we're passionate about, can provide us with energy. So I think that's something which answers just a little bit that question that we posed earlier. Now, what I would like to do is go back to those days off and breaks. As many scientists, I think this is also Andrew Huberman, the best way to fully process and learn something has two functions to it, too. One is the ability to focus on taking 10-second breaks, giving that time for your brain to fully comprehend what it is you're going through. Now, one more thing, which would be considered child abuse nowadays, but many teachers in the 1700s and 1800s after they had taught the children something, they would throw them in the lake so that they would remember it. And if we look at the science behind it, it makes sense, because the way that we fully remember something, if it threatens our lives, because then you're going to do everything to avoid that traumatic incident that almost cost you your life. I don't remember doing this. However, as I stated in the previous 2 podcasts, I found this to be a great way to fully summarize and master the ability to learn from books. So I would like to do things that have a high adrenaline. This is something which can be done in video games, workouts, all the things, but it's very important to identify it specifically and for you, tailoring that program individually for each individual is the most important thing. Now, yes, this is a broad statement, but we can take this statement and apply it to so many different aspects of our lives, because no 2 people are the same. But we can learn from one another and find the way which works perfectly for us. Now, to say that I've figured out how to take days off, nope. I have not. Unfortunately, all my work goes back into it. I have put a lot of my meaning towards my work. Now, this isn't the best thing, because this can lead to a more severe burnout. Even being aware of this fact still doesn't fully deter me, as I truly believe in my mission and its importance to help others. And part of the way I've been doing this is I have been opening up a crowdfunding for both of my businesses in order to help bring our businesses to the level where we can supply the right products and services to help people live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. I believe this is one of the hardest and greatest missions. Now, of course, before we can make change, we first must make the change in ourselves, those closest to us, and then we can begin to change the rest of the world. And by that I mean providing them the tools for them to make the change, because you can't push anyone to the right range. But if you change their environment, you will be able to help bring them to a new source of enlightenment. Funny enough, that's how the enlightenment actually happened, by the spread of ideas, as well as the coffee and tea which occurred, where people were much less drunk. Before, people would drink beer, as that was the more sanitized option. So, one of the last things that I would love to speak to you about is marketing and my vulnerability, as I'm sure many of the other have this. I don't like posting. Now, a big reason which I tell everybody, and is very true, is I'm very busy, and to take the time and effort to create a post is something which I find challenging. However, I definitely think it's something that is necessary, and the more that I dig into it, I'm able to realize that a lot of it comes from a point of vulnerability, because when you're posting stuff, you're posting to be judged. And this goes both ways. You can get the validation, but you can also get the rejection. Now, this rejection is what is causing the high rates of suicide in teens. Not to mention, depression, anxiety that come with the daily use of social media apps. And I have been pushing myself to go out of my comfort zone and to really get my stuff out there. Because as a CEO and founder, a big part of my job is to take the vision and to implement it not only internally into organizations, but to the outside world. And part of the way to do that is to really push yourself. So part of the crowdfunding is a way to provide some added value to people who believe and want to help bring our companies to the next level. Not to mention the ability for more people to actually get access to these services and products, which will make their life better. And the last things I would like to talk about is the circle of creation. So just as now, especially now in the last podcast, I was talking about more personal issues. And what's really cool about this, it actually mimics the progression that you would see in coaching. I don't want to touch on therapy, but it also shares some of the same fundamentals, because at the end of the day, we come in as a mirror to listen to our clients and to really help them process everything. Now, it's easier for other people to see the truth about us, but it's very hard for us to see, because the majority of the time we're lying to ourselves more than we lie to anybody else. Now, what does this mean? This means that in the beginning of a stage, we need to feel comfortable. So we'll talk about all the external things that are going on with our life as if that's a indicator of who we are. It is partially so. However, it doesn't go to the direct and immediate speaking of the character. I had just finished Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell at the end of the week, and he clearly points that out from a variety of different things, that when we see people, it can affect our judgment of them. And I think this is something which is true. However, in this specific case, since we're talking about the individual and for the psychiatrist or coach, it is a just word focus. Now, of course, you can use body language to tell people's reaction to things, and you can see if someone's uncomfortable, someone not. And it's really about building the right environment as well as enabling the right communication. So if you push a client too much, you'll get to a point where there's certain tightening up. So usually that's why the first 2 sessions are very clear, even 3. It all depends on the state of the patient as well as the program which he chooses to take on, which is explicitly stated in the beginning to the life coach, and they continue to work towards that overall goal. Now, what I've seen in myself, and maybe some of you who have finished some of the podcast episode will be able to notice, is that the majority are about work and personal goals and nothing about the daily process and difficulties which can come across. And this is something which I'm very happy that I can share with you, and you can feel comfortable about it. Even though there's a little bit of that fear, it still feels good because of some of the positive feedback which we at Real School Productions have been able to receive. Now, final thing which I would like to discuss today is about the cycle of the creator. What do I mean by that? I mean by, if you take a look at the great shows that we've seen, or some of the films of, great writers, directors, we see a certain evolution that happens. As just like I said, I got more comfortable, so I'm able to show new sides to you. This also goes for the creator. Once they feel more comfortable in the show that they've created, they can start taking it to new directions. Just some examples, if you take a look at Community, really even towards the end of the season, they felt a lot more comfortable, and as the seasons went on, it became goofier and goofier, but they were able to use a variety of different techniques, and I think this is because they were comfortable with the writing. Now you can see a variety of other shows, for example, like Suits. The dynamic between partners and everybody starts to shift because the characters evolved, and this is something that I was very stuck on for many years. And this was, if we mirror the story cycle. And what I mean by story cycle, there is Dan Harmon uses this for pretty much every project, and I've adopted the same thing. What do I mean by this? This is the hero's journey from The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. It is a good book, and the model is even better. Now you can find that in my book. I was able to create a variety of different poems that match the charts associated with. So one of them was the hero's journey, another one pros and cons, Eisenhower model, SWOT. You can tell. Now, one thing I want to share that we can take from this is we'll never be able to know exactly where we are, because we can feel the ups and downs and feel the happy. But this is an ever-changing state. So the most important thing is something which we can see in some of these great authors of the shows. Even Friends is one of them, where they felt more comfortable, where they can really add a fling between one of the friends, Monica and Chandler, and how they were able to develop a serious relationship. So how can we take this in practical? By focusing on new ways that we can become comfortable in our work. Now, one of the greatest things that you'll see a lot of very creative people will say is, in order to improve upon the art, we need to have more obstacles. What do I mean? Obstacles require us to find creative solutions to a problem which wouldn't necessarily exist. So as TV shows go on, they've solved a lot of the problems, and they've done a lot of the dynamics, so they have to come up with new ideas because of the restraints. And there we see a lot of the time a upgrowth in the quality. However, this is not always the case, because for those who are doing long shows like Benny Weiss and David, I forgot his name, the creators of Game of Thrones. Now what happened is, just like I stated in the beginning, when we have a job that is uncomfortable and takes a lot of work from us, and we lose some of the passion for, it can lead to a certain neglect and just let's just finish it out there, let's just get it. Now, this failure can be seen directly in that show. They just kept on going down and down, and they were told by the creator of the books, George R. Martin, that they would be able to take it to 12 seasons. However, because they had the success of what we created them, one of the most successful TV shows, they were able to grant themselves this, we can do no harm, let's just create it. Now, that mindset is one of the most dangerous things, because when we think that we've overcome this, even if we built the habit of working and creating and everything, if you do not add a 10% challenge to these habits, you will start to degrade in quality. Now, there's a variety of reasons why that happened. However, as us as individuals, we need to see where this comes into action in our own lives. For example, whether it's at the gym, whether it's at your job, ask yourself, what are more efficient ways, and meet up to them. And when you're able to set those small goals, it'll give you a lot more motivation to continue with the action, because for those of you who know, action precedes motivation. So if you're waiting for motivation to strike, even though you're listening to me, which I think is wise, you still have to continue to provide some sort of other action. That being said, a lot of the wisdom which I received was from resting and learning. Those two keys are crucial for our survival. Now, a big person, which I highly recommend to look into, and you'll see that they took this philosophy of rest deeply to heart, is Churchill. And why is rest so important? Because work and brain activity takes a lot of energy, so we need that balance. So just like the ways to find more efficient, finding rest in our day-to-day is a very efficient model, because for the past almost 8 months I've been working nights, and I have been doing a lot of work, but sometimes when you're working through the nights, it can be very draining. Even though it can be efficient, after time it starts to lose that efficiency because the effects that come with it. Everything has consequences. Those who know that are able to be a lot more mature, and be able to gather a lot of respect from others. Because if you're blaming the rest of the world, you're going to be stuck, and people are going to resent you. So please, find people that you're close to, find people that you love, find people that you admire, and you want to take some of the lessons from them, and really start to implement this. Implement ways where you can join them, and overall you'll see this progression, which will increase your efficiency and effectiveness to start pursue the things that are most important to you. Now, before I go, I just want to thank all you listeners again for listening and joining us. I hope you continue to support the show. Please like and subscribe for those who have not already, and please check out some of our businesses online. We would really appreciate the help with crowdfunding, both for Friedman Industries and Can Do. You'll find links below. And I just want to say thank you one more time. You are truly an awesome individual, and keep on working and fighting for what's important to you. Because when we challenge ourselves to do more, we'll do a lot more, and that's how we'll get to our ideal self. So thank you. This has been Coaching the Self. My name is J Friedman, and we'll see you again.